This video is brought to you by me, finishing Fire Emblem Three Houses, because I wasn't getting anything done until I beat it. Alright, let's get things started. Hey guys, Hattopy here. There really isn't a shooter quite like the ones in the Halo series. It was one of the first to make an impact not only on how games performed after it, but on how we perceived gaming entertainment that bled into other forms of media. Oh crap. No, companies like Rooster Teeth and Machinima thrived under the artistic reign that Halo was somehow able to provide the community. But it is a game first and foremost. I'm going way too deep onto that end. So today, I just kind of wanted to take a look at the series, starting from the beginning, of course, and see how well they stack up even today. Now, you're going to note by the title of the video that I'm talking about Halo 1 and 2. I'm splitting these ones up just so I don't really have like one jumbo video going on. And with Halo 1 and 2, they're actually the two games I played pretty much last in the entire series, thanks, of course, to the Master Chief Collection. But let's not waste any more time on this. Let's jump right into the game that started it all. Its legacy is legendary, but today, hopefully, I could put my own spin on it, as today we're looking at Halo Combat Evolved. In the future, mankind has taken to the stars and have now been colonizing onto other planets and traversing through space at light speed, all with the help of vastly improved technology. However, humans have been at war with an alien-like conglomerate called the Covenant, who have been flying through space, glassing planets as they go that have been colonized by humans. Our main story takes place just after said glassing of one human planet called Reach. We follow this large spaceship called the Pillar of Autumn, where the crew are trying to escape from a Covenant group chasing them down due to the high level of information on the ship. In an effort to hold them off, the leader of the group, Commander Keyes, lets free one of the last original Spartan 2 left alive, John 117, the Master Chief. He is assigned to guard the ship advanced AI named Cortana and get her off of the ship before it goes down. Chief proceeds to do so with the escape pod descending on a nearby ring called Halo. Now, you must evade the Covenant all while finding a means of escaping from Halo, as well as potentially figuring out some secrets of the ancient piece of architecture. So as far as video game stories go, for a time, it was certainly on a much grander scale than most other shooters in the genre. And after all this time has passed, the overall lore for this series, at least, is absolutely expansive. All that said, though, while the story might be alright, there is one thing more or less exclusive to this game that botches the story horribly. The levels you play through are terrible, especially ones in the latter half of the game. I'll get to those, but the overall point to make is that so many of these levels either drag on for way too long, has repetitive level design either within itself or from an older level, or a mix of all of those. Adding on to that, some levels are a little too open-ended, and I got lost more times than I wanted to, even considering that I played through Halo Combat Evolved more than once. That problem wasn't as frequent as the prior issues I pointed out. Fortunately, the gameplay is solid enough that it does make up a little bit for the shortcomings of the level structure. Now, talking about a shooter in 2019, it feels like it kind of goes without saying. You know, you can aim, you can jump, you can shoot, blah blah blah. But what Halo does for a primary mechanic, at least conceptually for Halo 1, is its different weapon types and elements. So when taking Halo 1, weapons can be split into precision weapons, automatic, or other weapons split between plasma and ballistic weaponry. Granted, auto and other could be one category, but Anywho, Halo has 2 levels of health, rechargeable shields and body health. Plasma melts shields extremely quickly, but don't do body damage very well, with ballistic being reversed. Chief can't regenerate body damage, but he can heal himself by tracking down med packs. That in mind, precision weaponry have the ability to one-shot enemies that don't have shields, or in the case of snipers, even with shields on some enemies. Halo 1 lacks a lot of precision weapons to truly prove my point, but it is an important note to make regardless. As for the enemies you face on your journey, the Covenant deploy 4 different aliens to face you. Grunts, which are these dwarfish-like creatures that freak out whenever their leading unit is taken down. Jackals that hide behind an energy shield to try and take pot shots at you. Elites that probably pose the most consistent threat to you. They come equipped with a variety of weapons and rankings as well, with the higher ranks having different colored armor, more health, and the chance of having deadlier weapons to use against you. And finally was probably considered the game's only real boss type enemy, Hunters. These bulky looking beasts that take a lot of damage before being put down and always come in pairs. These enemies are deployed alongside an assortment of different vehicular weaponries as well. Halo 1 doesn't have much that Chief himself can drive, but there is Warthogs and the Scorpion for human-based vehicles, and Ghosts and Banshees for the Covenant, alongside other non-drivable stuff like Pelicans and Wraiths. The designs for all these things all continue to look impressive, even to this day, even if the overall graphics for the game are a large meh. I guess the original graphics was impressive for its time, but I found that the redone graphics for the 360 and Master Chief Collection really didn't do much for me, I found. You use these pieces of equipment and many other pieces of weaponry to combat your foes as you try and unravel the secrets of Halo. After finding out that the Covenant are aiming to gain access to a control room of sorts to Halo, Chief and Cortana make their way, with Cortana leaking in to figure out what Halo's all about. She finds something shocking though and sends Chief to find the rest of his company, who were sent to another part of Halo to collect a supposed weapons cache. Chief doesn't make it in time as the company and Chief himself at that moment are attacked by the Flood. Enter your new enemy type, and, well, they sound more imposing than what they actually are. In reality, for this game, they're more annoying than anything. Flood come in 3 varieties: the little parasite forms that skitter on the ground in packs and try to latch onto you, the infected forms that charge you as well, varying by size and sometimes by weaponry, and finally the ones I like to call bursters. Shoot them enough, they blow up, releasing more parasites. Get too close, they blow up. Look at them funny, they blow up. Sneeze, they blow up. Pretty much, there's no way to stop them from blowing up other than to just run the other way. That's kind of the underlying problem with the Flood. You really can't do anything to bursters to keep them from releasing the little ones. As for the infected, they have the ability to resurrect when killed with basic weaponry, so it takes power weapons like shotguns or rocket launchers to keep them down permanently. Even the little guys, it doesn't take much to deal with them, but if left alone, they can catch up to you when you least want to deal with them. The worst example being with the level after their introduction, the library. Everything I mentioned about the level design just plays the most terrible role here, as you have to deal with some of the most annoying enemy types with the Flood that can't die under normal circumstances, so you have to use power weaponry that force you to fight them in some pretty tight corridors, and there's also like just a huge load of them that running is very hard sometimes, and even then, you're forced to fight them at different points along the level. Oh, yeah, it's good that I didn't play this on Legendary. I might have been liable to snap my disc. So you fight through the library because this little ball of joy named 343 Guilty Spark forcibly took you there in order to gain access to the index, which is required to initiate Halo's defenses. Chief takes it back to the control room, and just before he can activate it, Cortana stops him, saying that Spark left out some details when explaining what Halo does. Halo is used to combat the Flood, but one can't simply kill the Flood by force. Flood can only die by starvation. Their food? Anything and everything sentient. Halo's defenses is to kill off the Flood's food source.
Is that true, Dan?
Obviously not wanting to play chicken on this experiment, Chief and Cortana take the index and rush out, with Spark and your new enemy type in tow. Not much to say on this category. Sentinels are just floating contraptions that shoot laser beams at you that actually do a lot less damage than it looks. Plasma weapons, I find, tend to deal with them pretty easily, which is kind of a funny thing to mention. Halo invented the term noob combo, which consists of a fully charged plasma pistol shot, then swapping to a precision weapon to basically two-shot most enemies. It's a perfectly valid strategy, and a popular one even today. The funny thing with Combat Evolved, though, is that, at least on normal difficulty, the plasma pistol is a fantastic all-around killing machine, seemingly only taking a few shots to most enemies to dispose of them, minus basic flood forms. As an aside, I ain't testing my patience with legendary difficulty. It's bad enough I gotta be in a certain mindset to play these kind of games well on legendary difficulty, but playing some of these levels on normal was already excruciating enough, as I've already mentioned. I'll talk more on legendary difficulties when I get to Halo 3 and onward, but regardless. After enduring some more pretty bad levels, the game ends with Chief heading back to the Pillar of Autumn to blow up its core, shattering the Halo ring, taking it out of commission. The day is saved and Master Chief heads back to civilization a hero, but not everyone had the same outcome to these events, thus leading us to Halo 2 and the second part of this double bill. So while Master Chief heads back to human civilization to be honored for his achievements against the Covenant, the Flood, and Halo, back in the Covenant's capital of High Charity, an elite captain is reprimanded and shamed in front of his cohorts for not stopping the Master Chief from destroying Halo, even when his intentions was to keep his crew safe from the Flood. And hot damn, before continuing, unlike the update Halo 1 got not being very good to me, at the very least, Halo 2 cutscenes are amazing in its detail, rivaling Square Enix, if not surpassing them altogether in quality. Anywho, the Covenant discover Earth somehow and invade, apparently looking for something, with the leaders of the Covenant, the Prophets, offering the shamed elite the position of the Arbiter, a ranking that achieves honor through missions deemed basically suicidal to all others, which he ends up taking, donning the armor and title of the Arbiter. And that's basically the premise of Halo 2. It's about Chief proving why he continues to be a badass, and the Arbiter about trying to regain his honor, even if it means ending his own life. It's an interesting contrast in the characters and leads to what feels like a longer game to accommodate what is basically two different campaigns. Two full-length campaigns. Halo 5. Does the plot do enough different, though? Well, I feel like there are more exciting set pieces, so at least getting from point A to B is more fun. And I do find that the Arbiter's missions do stray away more from what the Chief had experienced a game prior. But Chief's missions here don't do much different from the last game, up till about the last 2 or 3, I find. I feel like the gameplay changes were what really contributed to the heightened enjoyability of the story. I find that Halo 2 properly sets the template for basically every Halo after this in terms of its gameplay. Now Chief does not have body health, kind of. He only has 1 meter for his shield, and when that goes down, it's a sign that you are very close to dying. Though to what degree of death you're close to is kind of random based on the weapon that you're being hit with. And speaking of weapons, Halo 2 adds quite a few, though it does replace the automatic rifle with the SMG. Well, less replace and more redesign, since the SMG will persist throughout the rest of Halo. Added, though, are some awesome weapons like the Burst Fire Battle Rifle and Covenant Ballistic Single Fire Carbine Rifle as new precision weapons, or the newly equipable Energy Sword, and many more. Adding to it that now you can actually dual wield certain single-handed weapons, adding a bit of variety to how you engage in combat. As well, added alongside of a bunch of new vehicles to drive, you now have the ability to hijack most enemy vehicles in the game. Smaller ones you can just completely take over to drive off, but with larger ones it actually gives you the chance to either stick a grenade inside or just punch the thing to explode, and it's sweet. In terms of the enemies you face off against here, there's a few changes to each type that I've already mentioned, added alongside the Novistadors from Resident Evil 4. I know they have a name. This is what I will continue to refer to them as, though, for the rest of the time. And the Flood, surprise, they returned, also got a slight adjustment, as now Flood actually stay down unless the parasite form actually comes into contact with a body, Flood-based or otherwise, bringing them back from the dead. So now it's even more important to deal with them when present, but it at least adds a bit of fairness and more individuality to them that wasn't already present. Rather, the bullcrap comes with the new Covenant enemy type, the Brutes. These guys are just the worst. These guys, even on normal, pack so much health, and they have armor on their body and head, making precision weapons useless. You can shoot their helmet off, but not only does it seem like precision weapons not affect them regardless, but they go into this berserk state, charging you down and shoulder tackling you till you die, and you get tossed around, and they move in such a manner that it's so hard to pin them down, and because of their crazy health, they feel extra difficult to take down for no reason. They can even be like this without having their helmet blown off. Try shooting them when they're busy NFL tackling you down. Oh, they suck so much. Later games handle their berserk personality way better and would probably be the sole cause of controller snapping if I were to play this on Legendary. There was only one surefire method of taking them down consistently well. So while Chief plays exactly as I described, the Arbiter does actually have one extra feature with him in having the ability to turn invisible for a brief period. While not inherently a stealth game, especially on Chief's side, the Arbiter's missions favor a more player-controlled environment with its battles. He mostly enters into combat with AI comrades in tow, and usually won't engage until the Arbiter does, so he has his invisibility to allow him to traverse the battlefield and strike whenever he's ready. And once the enemy engages with the Arbiter, that's when the AI joins in as well. Invisibility is also a great way of giving you a quick breather in the middle of chaos, which makes dealing with the Brutes much easier with the Arbiter. Chief, though, not so much. And the final thing to note, this game does have a boss fight of sorts, not counting the hunters, against this hairy-chinned bugger. There's really nothing to it though, and actually felt extremely anticlimactic, so it kind of put a damper on the ending, which was already infamously abrupt, but meh. For 90% of the game, it was a huge upgrade compared to the first. And that's Halo 1 and 2. Sorry, this one kind of felt like it took a little bit longer than what I felt like. I don't know. It's the one that had the least interactions with out of the entire series, so that just kind of felt like why I should have them both. Am I happy I played them? More Halo 2 than 1, even considering the nonsense with the Brutes. But next time is when the series starts to really pick up pace, with me at least, and truly become legendary. But anywho, thank you all so much for watching. If you like what you saw, you can click right up here to check out some of my other videos that I've done, or if you really feel like it, you can click right up here to subscribe. And until next time, guys, I will see you all later.